The years from 1660 to 1780, from Dryden to Johnson's death, is considered the neoclassical age of English literature. Apart from Dryden and Pope, the main authors of the period were Swift, Addison, Steele, Pope, Lord Chesterfield, Fielding, Goldsmith, and Gibbon. In this video with Ace the English Hub, we discuss the neoclassical movement in English. In literary theory and practice, most writers of the neoclassical movement exhibited a strong traditionalism and a distrust of radical innovation. They had a great respect for the classical authors, and especially the Romans. They believed that the classical authors of Greece and Rome had established and perfected the principal literary genres of all time. The term neoclassical was attributed to them because of the high estimate they gave for the literary achievements of classical antiquity. Literature was primarily regarded as an art which requires innate talents that should be perfected by long study and practice. Thus, the writers of the period were painstaking craftsmen who had a deep respect for the rules of their art. These rules could best be learnt from close study of the classical authors and by careful imitation of their works. The neoclassical ideal was founded especially on Horace's Ars Poetica. It demanded finish, correction, and attention to detail. The neoclassical approach to literature was thoroughly professional. They believed that reason and judgment were the most admirable faculties. Decorum was essential for their works. The most desirable qualities in prose and in verse were harmony, proportion, balance, and restraint. The neoclassical writers aimed at correctness. This is evident especially in their use of heroic couplet. The preservation and establishment of order, balance, and correctness led to their frequent use of satire as a corrective. It was a means of controlling excess, folly, stupidity, and corruption. The neoclassics felt it a necessity to instruct as well as to please. Poetry was held to be an imitation of human life. Its aim was to give new and perfect expression to the general nature and shared values of humanity. It was considered a mirror held up to nature. It was needed to balance the typical and the familiar with the qualities of novelty, particularity, and invention. The neoclassical rules of poetry were based on the essential properties of classical works found in various genres like the epic, tragedy, comedy, and pastoral. These properties were to be embodied in modern works if these two are to be excellent and to survive through the ages. They deliberately adapted known and tested methods in writing. However, the neoclassicists were not conservative in any pejorative sense. They were also open to innovative freedom. Alexander Pope, in his work, An Essay on Criticism, which is considered a summary of neoclassical principles, refers to a grace beyond the reach of art. In the work, Pope admits the inadequacy of rules to produce the highest poetic effects and makes room for originality and poetic license. The neoclassics were ready to accept the novel and the particular so long as novelty and invention enhanced the subject and adorned the chosen form. Samuel Johnson often protested against the perils of the fanciful, of letting the imagination run away with one. The neoclassics adopted a safe, moderate course. Aurea mediocritas, or the golden mean was almost a working motto for them. It refers to the ethical goal of reaching a virtuous middle ground between two sinful extremes. The English critics also, unlike the Italian and French critics, opposed the strict application of rules such as the three unities in drama. Neoclassical beliefs and ideals generated a definite vision of man and mankind. Art for humanity's sake was a central idea of neoclassical humanism. Human beings, considered an integral part of a social organization, were regarded as the primary subject matter of the major forms of literature. Man, his activities in society, his social environment, what men possess in common, and the general and representative characteristics of mankind were discussed at length. This idea is opposed to the individual contemplating his or own psyche or relationship with the natural world. Many of the great works of the period, satiric and didactic, attack human pride. Let's look at this quote from Pope's An Essay on Man. The proper study of mankind is man, points to the study of fellow human beings. Pope finds every man to be the epitome of all humankind. This is because the most vital and fundamental qualities of humanity are the same for all human beings. There also evolved a general view of nature and mankind. Man was viewed as a limited being who ought to undertake accessible goals. Human beings needed to accept their restricted positions in the natural order, or a natural hierarchy, which was called the Great Chain of Being at that time. Pope said in his essay on criticism that true wit is what oft was thought, but never so well expressed. Samuel Johnson stated that wit is at once natural and new, and praised Shakespeare because, while his characters are species, they are all discriminated and distinct. Universal human agreement was considered the best test of moral and religious truths and of artistic values. A quick recap. We discussed how the neoclassicals had a great respect for the classical authors, how they were master craftsmen who had strict rules yet not so conservative, and their study of nature and mankind. Thank you and see you again with our next video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you find our content useful.